Thank you. At this time now, I want to call upon a representative, Dr. Mwangi, James Mwangi. In about 5 minutes, you give a reflection of some of the things that we are talking about, on how we can get back on track in terms of our community. It belongs to the people, private sector led. Most welcome.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. Your Excellencies, allow me to observe protocol as really elaborately evoked by Secretary General, so that I can use the 5 minutes to communicate the observations of the private sector and the Business Council. Your Excellencies, we observe when we look at environmental intelligence that we are observing another 1945 movement when the world was recovering from the Second World War. This time, the world is recovering from the COVID-19 impact. The disruptions of the two are of international and global significance and are forcing the world, as it did in 1945, to reset. In 1945, the world reset through institutional frameworks and governance structures, creating the UN, creating the World Bank, and the rest of Bretton Woods institutions. This reset, Your Excellencies, seems to be in the economic sphere because COVID disrupted the global supply chains and disrupted the global economy. The reset, consequently, will be of an economic nature. As a business community, we debated yesterday and realized the world has created opportunities through that reset. The first one, Your Excellencies, is the disruption of global supply chains. We all learned from vaccines and PPEs how that disruption made countries that had no production capacity to suffer. As a result, the reset requires regional and national supply chains to be set. We see this as an opportunity for the East African community to establish its own local and regional supply chains. The second one is the lessons of we have all learned from Russia and Ukraine. The world has suffered significantly in food security because of over-reliance and over-dependence on Russia and Ukraine to feed the world. Everybody is paying the price of that war with a very high inflation at the global level. And consequently, the reset of the world is to ensure interdependence instead of dependence. We in East African community see the opportunity to plug and play the gaps that have been left by that dependence. And we feel the East African region can be a grain basket for the world because it may take 3 or 5 years for Ukraine and Russia to be able to produce what it was producing. That gap and vacuum can be filled by the East African community because it's an agricultural region. The third lesson that we have observed as business people is the concentration of other sectors. It's not just in agriculture. We realized edible oils. 90% is produced by 2 countries. The world wants to diversify that. Manufacturing is dominated by 5 countries. The world wants to diversify that. And we realized whether it's manufacturing or whether it's processing, the East African community is very well positioned. Well positioned because as a community, we are now home to 300 million people, a sizable market that can give any business the economies of scale that it requires. A significant market that is concentrated. $1 billion to provide the purchasing power that any business would need. But we also saw East African community being an agricultural hub and having an advantage of other. The second one is that it has an advantage of natural resources, particularly minerals, that are required to green the world. And we felt that that is a huge opportunity for us to process, to manufacture the requirements from those mining resources. And so we saw an opportunity that we thought we could communicate to you, enhancing the quality of lives of our people in a very distributed and equitable way, because the opportunities are in agriculture, opportunities are in trade, opportunities are in manufacturing, so where we need. But we need to be organized, and our vehicle of choice as a business community as a common market. And as a common market, then we are organized, we speak in one voice, and our negotiating capability, if we start together as a common market. Your Excellencies, we observed this journey started 17 years ago. We are cognizant the common market is 11 years old, but the journey started 17 years ago. A child who was born that year, next year will be asking for employment, will be asking for a license to contribute in building their economy. However, we realized they will still have to deal with some of the teething problems and startup problems that were there 17 years ago. As a business community, we plead with you, Your Excellencies, our leaders, to fast track the completion of all the protocols of the Commonwealth so that it becomes a solid voice for the people of the East African community, so that we can call ourselves a functional market and attract companies that want to set manufacturing, because we are a truly common market. We attract companies that want to do fertilizer manufacturing because we are a common market that is powerful and big in agriculture. The 15% trade within the East African community shows the strains and the barriers that remains. Your Excellencies, we plead with you with a lot of respect that if we can remove these barriers, the private sector could be an engine and a partner of our government to transform our region, improve the livelihoods of our people, give each of us an opportunity to contribute to the economic development, and more importantly, give our young people an opportunity and to become an economic dividend to the region. With those many words, we thank you, Your Excellencies, for allowing us this time not to be observers, but to participate in the common destiny of our people. Thank you, Your Excellencies.
Thank you very much. The treaty provides that private sector is the engine of regional integration, and therefore you are part and parcel of the community.